Okay. So we're going to study a little bit on department training and change. All right. So disseminate information, promote training related to supply management policies and procedures. Knowledge assessment and situational analysis. So there's a lot about assessing the current state of training on policies and procedures, or current state of training for purchasing. I know ISM will send a group out to do it. It costs in the neighborhood of 10 grand. And what they're trying to do is get the management to sign up for all of their classes that are like $1,000 a piece. But it's not a bad assessment. And what they do, I think, is they go in, you got to answer a bunch of multiple choice questions, just like the tests here for the certification. And they show you where you're weak and where you're strong. So somehow or another, you got to assess the training within the purchasing department, purchasing customers, how well do they know how to deal with purchasing? Externally with groups who are in contact, so that might be suppliers. Assessment should be conducted using more than one method, and assess current methods of training dissemination. Are you using web? Are you using classroom? Because the web is easy, but it's not that efficient. Compliance metrics. So some of the policies and procedures that are commonly measured are procedures on bids, requisitioning, contracting, blanket POs, negotiations, transportation, ethics, inventory management. I got the guys working on my door here painting it, so they're ripping tape off. If you can hear that in the background, they should be done in a minute. Some possible approaches to review training: periodic reviews of documentation, discussions with personnel directly involved, requiring documentation as each transaction occurs. And then there's something they're calling the learning organization concept. So learning companies challenge their mental models and their core beliefs about how their processes work. So just because it's on paper and it's been there a while doesn't mean it's right. So this guy called Peter Senge coined the term the learning organization. He believes these are the components needed to enable a company to be a learning organization: systems thinking, tools to make full patterns clear, personal mastery, special level of proficiency, or people trying to get to a level of mastery, mental models, deeply ingrained assumptions, generalizations of images, influence how we understand the world, building shared visions, team learning. Learning dominated companies also share the following traits. They have a shared vision of how and why does purchasing contribute to the company. Conflict is used constructively. Learning dominated groups consider certain types of friction constructive. So not all friction is constructive, but certain types are. So spirit of creativity and innovation. This mindset allows for generation of more better options, and commitment to education. So this is consistent with Deming's 13th principle, institute a vigorous program of education and retraining. And perceptive risk-taking. These companies pursue calculated intuitive risks. They've learned that risk assessment strategies will guide the way. So unless you're going to allow people to kind of fail, it's going to be hard to get spirit of creativity and innovation going if they're punished for failure every time. Development of entrepreneurial talents internally. So this is what they're calling an intrapreneur. So entrepreneurs do what entrepreneurs do, just they're inside the company. They're not taking all the risks that entrepreneurs are taking. They take new ideas, concepts, and practices and convert them into profitable realities. And individuals have a sense of ownership in what they do, and they're willing to lead their areas as though the resources were their own. Some of the management tools found in these companies include things like knowledge management systems that are pretty robust, environmental knowledge scanning intelligence, internal data warehouse system, personal decisions dashboards, a lot more of the stuff that we don't have. A lot more software oriented, these dashboards and things like that. Value propositions. Supply management needs to develop a value proposition for its importance to the organization. This is really kind of Brennan's job. Reasons for underlying supply management's contribution. So purchasing may be perceived as having little impact. Executive leaders do not recognize the potential of supply management. These are all reasons for undervaluing purchasing. Cost avoidance or money not spent is difficult to measure. And supply management focuses too much on price reductions. But, ISM says that, but price reductions are always going to be at the top of everyone's list for purchasing to do. Ways to improve supply management's value proposition: demonstrate the impact of supply management on all aspects of the business. Promote supply management data as a means for risk mitigation. Proactively reach out to other functions and demonstrate results, and solicit feedback and ideas from other functions. None of which are a bad idea. Become more involved in cross-functional teams. We do a pretty good job of that. Convince executive leadership to obtain input from other functions on about how savings have enabled them to do other things. So this is good for engineering because oftentimes they don't have money to pay for stuff and they just use our savings. Demonstrate how supply management can deliver much more than savings. The organizational mission, supply management's value proposition needs to align itself with its organizational mission. So again, these are the top 5 supply management missions from Center for Advanced Purchasing Studies. Achieve consistent cost savings. Ensure continuity of supply, improve efficiency of the supply management function, improve all aspects of supplier performance year over year, and acquire new value-adding technologies and innovations from supply markets. I kind of like these last 2. The first 3 are kind of the same old crap that you see a lot. It doesn't really mean anything. Training documents and methods of delivery. So technology, it's like, online and the internet. We've gotten rid of all the filing cabinets. I don't think anybody puts anything on paper anymore. One-on-one meetings, face-to-face or virtually. Suggestions for better one-on-one meetings: block regular time, prepare discussion points, be fully present. Start positive by complimenting your colleague. And then shadowing, following a colleague around to see what their responsibilities entail. We could do this with some of the analysts better than a written job description, since it involves aspects as well as can include commentary. And if you wanted to do some cross training on another desk, that might be a good thing to do. Written essentially for effectively communicating policies and procedures. You can go back and look up stuff and recheck information when it's written down. And standard ways of doing business are formalized in standard operating procedures, usually in written form. And then the last thing we're going to look at is some change management techniques. Involves making changes in a planned and systematic fashion. So here's a couple of steps, but if you're really interested in this, you can look at this book online here, Making Sense of Change Management. It's about 400 pages, but it will cover a lot of stuff. Underpinning theory, team change, organizational change, leading change, restructuring, mergers and acquisitions, IT based. So, if you're really interested in change management, there you go. But The Cliff Notes version of it is managing the change process involves dealing with three questions. How deals with the process of getting people to adopt change. What addresses what the company is going to change. And why addresses the rationale for the change. You got to have the why, otherwise people are not going to pay attention to you. Steps for managing change include the following: collecting data, evaluating the opportunities for the change and comparing the advantages and disadvantages, design a strategy, implementation, resources, requirements, time frame, and then implement the change strategy, and then review. This is a pretty standard implementation process. And here's something you may see on the test, but it's kind of interesting: the Kubler-Ross change curve. So Kubler-Ross were two people that did a study in the late 1960s on cancer patients. And this is what they came up with, and people have adapted it to change in organizations. So step one is denial, because you don't want to change. Step two is anger, because you're mad that you have to change. And then step three is bargaining or frustration to try to get out of the change. And then four, you're depressed because there's no way out. And then finally, in step five, you accept it. And reasons for failure to institute the change include inconsistencies between management's words and their actions. This is quite common. Management says one thing, but their actions and all their pay incentives do something else. No system to evaluate the change and what it is to accomplish. So how do you know if you ever made the change? No change in compensation, performance appraisal, information, or systems. They just tell you to make the change and use the same stuff you got today. It's like, yeah, probably it's not going to work. Unrealistic timelines. This is a PACCAR one. Assumption that training is all that is needed for change to take place, and lack of constant communication. All right. All of the following are management tools learning organizations might use, except which one doesn't belong? They all look like they belong to me.
Yeah, I think internal data warehouse
No,
or
I remember them mentioning that one, both of these, and this one.
okay.
So that tells me it's some goofy answers, and B might be the answer. I don't know. Let's see. It's probably some kind of trick thing. They're usually pretty bad about that. B is correct. While creative problem-solving methodologies are critical and are used all the time in learning organizations, this question is asking for management tools. Yeah, I figured it would be something kind of twisted like that. All right. All of the following are traits of learning-dominated supply management organizations: shared vision, perceptive risk-taking, entrepreneurial talents. Choose from the options above, A, B, or C, the trait that best characterizes each of the following. You can use a choice once more than once, or not at all. So supply professionals take new ideas, concepts, and practices and convert them into profitable realities. Which one do you like?
Oh, C and entrepreneurial
Yeah,
talents,
that's what I'd go with.
right? Yeah.
And then where, how, and why supply management contributes to organizational effectiveness. Yeah.
Yeah, I would go with A, shared
Yeah,
vision.
yeah, that's what I'd do. I like both of those answers. All right, let's see what these guys say. One is C, entrepreneurial talents. Yep. And two is A. Yep. There
All
you go.
right.
All right. All right. So there's 8 questions out there. And it is 3:45, so raise your hand when you get done, but at the latest, we'll get on them at about 3:55. Ready to go? Let's go do some answers here. Okay, number one is Bravo. While compliance metrics are important, they are not part of Peter Senge's disciplines. Two is Charlie. I figured this would be a tricky one because policy and procedures manual document and disseminate information. They don't improve it. Three is Delta. Internal processes are not specific to learning-oriented companies. Four is Alpha. Perceptive risk-taking is an important aspect of learning-oriented organizations. Five is Delta, because a job description is more appropriately part of human resources or staff information. Six is Bravo, because engaging others, encouraging their input, and taking concerns seriously represent good ways to get people to take ownership of change. Seven is Delta, because the mindset, this mindset allows for more and better options, even though the ideas are coming from the supplier and the category managers looking for creativity and innovation from the supply base. And eight is Bravo. Training assessments are not necessary. They are not one of the components needed to enable a company to learn, according to Peter Senge. So I would disagree with Pete on that, but Pete says you don't need training assessments. All right. So Monday we'll continue on with B4. Have a
Great.
good weekend.
Thank you, Rick. You too.
All right.
Talk to you next week.
Yeah.